Well, hello, and thank you for joining me on this training session. We're looking today at the creation of email templates within Sage CRM, and it forms part of the application administration cycle of training. It's the second of 12 lessons that make up this group of 12 lessons. We're concentrating today, as I said, on the creation of email templates, but we'll be going on through the cycle looking at SMS configuration, handling the translation and control of forward and reply translations, the idea of email aliases, and then moving on to thinking about how documentation, document merge works as well, and looking quite a lot of different questions around how mail merge works, how we create templates, how we go on and work with nested templates as well, the idea of quote and orders and quote lines and order lines, etc. Then we'll go on to looking at the general system behavior and including things like logging as well. Those are the later lessons within this cycle. But for now, what we're doing today is looking at the creation of email templates. These are the templates used within the Sage CRM internal email client, and then also how to create personal signatures used by the internal email client. So what we'll do is we will look at the creation of those templates used throughout the product, and you can see that what I've just done is I've logged on as Susan May. I happen to have logged on as a sales user, and here you can see I'm looking at 120 user expense system for the demo company Gatecom. So I logged on as Susan May, and I've just clicked there the email address for that opportunity or for the contact in the opportunity up in the top content area, and you can see that I've started to compose an email with the internal email client. We can choose any particular template that is associated with this context, and I'll start to explore a little bit about context in a moment, but we can have, if we're in an opportunity, particular templates available to us. If we were in a company, we can have different templates available to us. And what we can see is that once a template is chosen, this then writes down into the body of the email and also into the subject line the information from the template, and it can also include and merge in information from the records that are in context. Plus, we can also include inline graphics and attachments as part of the created email. So emails are very rich, and the templates reflect that ability to include information, attachments, and inline graphics. So in this lesson, what I want to do is to look at how that's been created and how the template can access the different information that we need for the user that's making use of the template to create the email. And that means what I need to do is switch across into another user. I need to click here, and you can see that I've logged on as the system administrator. So the system administrator, once we log on, we come into the standard dashboard area. I need to get into the administration area, so I'm calling into administration, and you can see I've switched over now into the general administration area, and I need to drill down into email and documents, and then down into the email templates as well. So you can see that I'm now in administration, email and documents, looking at the email templates, and you can see that I've got a whole host of different documents in here. They're not filtered, so this is the full set of templates that exist within a default system. There's a whole load of these, and you'll see many of them are actually associated with the feature for password recovery. And a later lesson is going to look at some of the features associated with that and the idea of using password automatic recovery as well. But these templates are also maintained in the same way that we can use as we are constructing any template. Now, what happens if I click the new button? Well, what happens is that we get a screen that allows me to start to compose a template that can be used for whatever purpose. Now, for the purposes of our training here, for the purposes of today's lesson, what I want to do is end up creating a template that is going to be a standard response once a customer service request has actually been received within the system. So it's the sort of thing that you would want to be able to click on to send out once a case has been registered to confirm the details of the support request. But to do this, what we have to think about is the context in which the particular email template is going to be used. Now, when I showed you the very first thing, I showed you in the context of an opportunity, and that meant I was drawing information in that template down from the opportunity record. It had the details of the opportunity description, it had the details of the person and the company contained within it, as well as the user that was sending the email. So this is the case where when we choose the context, that's going to determine the data that's available to us for our merge. And so that's the parental. If we're in a particular context of an individual case, we'll have the parental information as well. So I need to choose the context, and rather than just hovering here, I'm going to click on case, and what you can see that now I've chosen case as my context. So these then become the fields that I can insert into the email text. Now, there's a different set of fields dependent on the context. Opportunities obviously have the opportunity detail, cases have the case details, different information, because there's a different underlying view linked in to this idea of the context. And as you pull down through the listing of the fields, you'll see all of them. Now, we're going to understand that there's different information available to us. And if I just click into now a PowerPoint slide, what you can see is that we're using a set of views dependent on the context that we're in. And this should be of great interest to us, because it starts to give us rise into what we can do now that we know the context. So here, if I'm composing an email in the context of the case, I'm using vSummary case as the underlying view, and I'm also using for the user information a view called vSearchListUser. So if there is data contained within the view for a record vSummary case, then I know I can include it inside my email template, and that includes columns from the company, the person, and the case itself. Now, if I want to know more about how mail merge documentation, etc., is contained in here, then go to the Help Center. So the help.sagecrm.com is where you'll get all of the details around email templates. But it's this sense that when we're looking at a feature like the email templates, they are fundamentally based on the view. It's actually the view is the most important thing. So we're not dealing with fixed fields that can be included. It is something that is dynamic. And so if a view encompasses a particular table and you add a field to that table, that new field will become available inside the mail merge as well. So this is where it becomes extensible. And if I think about something, so if I'm looking at my template in starting off in here, and I want to include a particular field in my template, well, how do we go about it? Well, I'm going to go and add a field into the company table. So I'll look at the customization of the company. I'll go into the company entity and I'm looking down at the fields. And what I'm going to do here is just add in a new field called custom field. So you can see here it's a text field, it's just simple, and it will contain whatever information that is appropriate for the company, whatever it stands for. Now, if I return back into looking at the template, so back into email and documents and back into the email templates where I was, so back into this screen, if I now pull down the list of fields for the company context, the fields for the inclusion will, as you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that the custom field is available for inclusion in the template, and you can click on that and it would be written into the template. And that becomes then showing a custom field within the view can be dropped into any of our templates. But it is this idea that knowing that our context is based on a view, and the view needs to be able to provide you the information, but once you know what those fields returned by the view should be, even if they're not in the drop-down list, you can type the names of the fields. So if you're confident that you know the names of the fields, then you can type those in just as you would expect other names to be used as well. So that's why on the screen at the moment you can see that I've just typed in, or just dropped in, I did a copy and paste to drop in company name and the person last name. So this is just because I know that the context I'm in has an underlying view which contains that information, reminding you again that if you are in a specific context, you'll be in a specific view with not only that providing you the details of the entity that's in context, but you will also have information from the user view as well, the search list user. So you're always going to have this rich information available to you within the context of the merge. So how do I use this? Now I've cheated here, I've stepped away and I've created then a new email template for the cases context. And the fields here, as you can see, are drawn from the case, the person, the company, and the user tables. Now I've marked this as belonging to the cases context. This would only be available for use as a merge, and this particular template, it does include the idea of a included image, but it's only available in the context of cases. So it's when the case is in primary context. So I can't use although a case template is based on the case view, which includes person and company information, I can't use a template designed for the company context in the context of a case. So I'll only see, when I start to compose an email, I'll only see the templates that are available in that context. Yeah, so it's designed for the case context, so it's assuming you're using the view. So I can choose that and then use it, and it will write the information out from the underlying view into the email, bringing any of the data from that. And you can see that it's not just writing into the body, it's writing into the subject as well. We're going to be looking and expanding this a little bit further as we go on as well, because we'll be looking at questions around the idea of aliases and the idea of other information being able to be used in emails a little bit later on in a later lesson. But for now, what you should hopefully get is the sense that you could have customized the view in many ways by adding in new fields into the table that are brought into the view that is then used inside the system. What is a limitation is that these are flat views. They're only ever assuming that when you're creating a email template and an email merge, that you're only ever dealing with a single record. So we don't support the idea of a nested sense of parents including multiple rows from children. It's not like the merge context that can take place within the context of document merges. But there you go. That's the idea of being able to write a simple email template. Now we can take this idea and use it as well in creating templates for email signatures for individuals. This is very simple to do. So here, an individual user can come into the system. I happen to be logged on as Susan May, and now a user can click on preferences and then go into the preferences screen and click on, over on the right hand side, you'll see amongst the action buttons, there's a signature button. So if you click on the edit email signature, you're able to then start to create a signature that you want to use. Now, you can only use information from the user context. It's the underlying vSearch user list view that is contained here. But you could extend and look at additional fields in that user list context as well. Please note that as soon as you choose a template, this signature will disappear. The only time you keep the signature when you're working with emails that have come into the system is when you are then, or into other contexts, is when you are then choosing to use signatures for when it's replying or forwarding with the internal email client. So you're taking something that has been stored and then you're deciding to forward it on to another colleague, perhaps. Now that means that we can save this and this becomes our signature, and that means that once you start to compose a new email, here I'm using the new menu and selecting new email, and it starts just to write the signature and applies it. Now that brings us to the end of the lesson. We're going to be taking this idea and developing it still further when we come on to looking at some of the setting up of email aliases and the idea of forward and reply translations. But next week, the first thing that we'll be looking at on the next lesson is SMS configuration. So let's see right now if anyone has got any questions about what I covered. Thank you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.